So I've done my Celtics rants, and now I'm going to attempt to not overreact, but this is a running thing on the channel now, and I just want to do this. Kemba looks great. He's got the bounce in his step, the lift on his jump shot, the way that he's turning the corner on pick and rolls, the way that he is just stopping on a dime, whether it's in the mid-range or pulling up for three. He had 6 threes in this Clippers game. And the evasiveness around the rim and still drawing contact, even if he's not going to be like a huge contact guy because he's like 6'1". Kemba has been great. And he's making up for the fact that Tatum has really been having a tough time lately. I think Tatum just might be really tired. That's my guess. And it seems like the minutes restriction for Kemba has been great. I mean, he hasn't been playing in back-to-backs, and he has just looked like the old Kemba when he's back out there. And this is pretty crucial. I mean, they gave him a lot of money, and he's still under contract for a few years, and this roster is pretty top-heavy, so Kemba's very important. So when he's dropping these 20-point games and looking like the fast dude again. And now let me talk about Time Lord Robert Williams. He might already be the Celtics' best center. I mean, I had a tweet maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago or something where I said, if Robert Williams stays healthy, I think he can be the best center on the Celtics. Because you could say Daniel Tice better fundamentally, even if he is, of course, not as athletic as Robert Williams. But Time Lord just had maybe his best NBA game. Maybe. I mean, I think there was one against the Spurs that was really awesome at one point. But still, tonight he was great against the Clippers. And, I mean, it's the obvious stuff. He is so much more threatening rolling to the rim than Tice, Thompson, any small ball 5 the Celtics throw out there. I mean, you know, Tice, sometimes he's a good three-point shooter. Teams don't really guard him like that. Sometimes he has that free throw line jumper. It's cool, but it's different when you've got a guy who's got real gravity around the basket. And hell, even when defenses do collapse under Robert Williams, he still gets the damn thing. He's only listed at, what, 6'9", I believe it is? But his head can get to the rim. So it's effectively still just devastating when the guy's just in the dunker spot and not left accounted for. That's the obvious thing. He also had some great passes in this one. The one I remember the most was there was a trap on the screen, and he noticed Jeff Teague on the opposite elbow, got it right to him. That was good. And then defensively, Rob had his signature block of a three-pointer, so that was something. There was one other block, I don't remember them all exactly, and there were also a couple of good contests. There were a couple times when he committed a little too hard. There was one time when he went too hard on the baseline, and it led to a Zubats layup, and I think that's still a part of Time Lord's game that he's got to figure out, but he certainly brings a lot of energy to the Celtics, and he just kind of wakes up the whole team. He also wakes me up as I'm watching them. I mean, I'm watching every game, and still when he's in there, it's just a different life. And I think now if they can get that Robert Williams with what Marcus Smart gives them, on top of Kemba, who has been looking great lately, then suddenly I like this team a lot more. Now, the weird thing is lately, Tatum has not been as good, and Jalen had a stretch there, and he wasn't particularly great in this game, although I do think Jalen needs to get the ball more in crunch time. I feel like sometimes they get too happy with Tatum or Kemba, where it's like, you know, Jalen's pretty good. He's averaging like 27 points a game this year. But anyway, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I think Tatum needs a break. That's the real thing. I mean, he went nuts at the end against the Wizards, but he wasn't great for most of that game. He just looks slow, tired, and all that right now, and I kind of wish that he just wouldn't participate in the All-Star stuff, but I guess it's still a bit of a break, and hopefully it would be enough of a breather for him, because I think this team is starting to get some real momentum going, and with the break that I think they really need, as a lot of teams probably need, because a lot of teams look like they're kind of stuck in quicksand depending on the night. Then, with Marcus Smart coming back, we assume after the All-Star break that they can be really ready to go in the second half of the season, and that's a big difference from what it was, I don't know, a week ago. Now, I still think their defense has some things to figure out. I mean, Brad was super pissed at Semi Ojeleye on one of those last plays. I think he just needed to switch a little faster or whatever it was. And I feel like they are still kind of giving up too many open shots. I mean, their defense on Brad Beal in the last game wasn't good. They were blessed that he missed one shot at least, which would have been the game winner, of course. But there wasn't enough resistance on him, and Reggie Jackson really killed him tonight. Paul George did as well, but that one's a little more acceptable. So I don't want to act as if everything's figured out, but it's going in the right direction. And given how bad it looked, with the blown lead against the Pelicans and getting killed by Atlanta and not even showing up in that game really at all, and there was a similar one against the Wizards maybe like a week or so ago at this point. I guess this is considered a post-game reaction, and with these there's, I think, more of an expectation that you just kind of pivot out of nowhere. So I'm going to randomly talk about Nikola Jokic. I think I'm back to believing he's the best player in the league this season. He was insane against the Bulls the other game, and some Bulls fans were crapping on Wendell Carter. I feel like Wendell Carter did an okay job. I mean, Thad Young was on Jokic sometimes as well, but still, I feel like Wendell just got a lot of heat, and it's like, bro, it's Nikola Jokic. You want to name me a single guy who can defend him other than Dwight Howard, who was fouling him every possession? I'm not blaming Dwight. If they're not going to call it, then go for it, but it's tough, and Jokic is better now than he was in the postseason. He had a lot of post-ups in that game. I guess the other thing we could talk about is the Hawks and Lloyd Pierce, because I don't think I'm going to do a whole video on this because, well, to be honest, I just don't really know if Hawks fire Lloyd Pierce was really going to bring in the viewership, but we can talk about it right now. I think Lloyd Pierce just kind of became the scapegoat here. Not saying he was impervious to criticism, but something had to happen. I mean, you've got the veteran coach right there. The team makes a whole bunch of offseason moves, and they've had injuries, but it's still been disappointing so far. That's just kind of how it is in sports sometimes. I mean, really, with Atlanta, it's their defense. Their offense is pretty much fine. I mean, could you do the whole Trae Young do more off the ball thing? Sure, but their problem is they just can't guard guys right now. But they did win tonight. I did not see any of the game. I was just watching Celtics Clippers from beginning to end, so I've got no take on Hawks Heat. Other than Jimmy did not play. And I think it's fair to just question, is this Hawks team going to look a lot different under Nate McMillan? In terms of kind of everything, I mean, the Pacers didn't shoot a lot of threes under McMillan. They took a lot of mid-range. Not that I think he told them not to shoot threes, but he clearly didn't tell them to shoot a lot of threes. And defensively, is he going to inspire a little bit more? Are the schemes going to be a little bit better? I mean, I think Clint Capella has had to pick up a lot of slack, and he's done an okay job, but is John Collins just going to be better recognizing when to rotate on defense and things like that? I mean, I think John Collins is athletic enough to be a good defender, and he's definitely better than when he got into the league. You got Trae, who, I mean, it is what it is. Trae Young is always going to have a tough time on defense, but that doesn't mean you have to be horrible. I mean, I'm going to point to Brad Stevens and the ways he found to hide Isaiah Thomas on defense. I mean, in 2016, the Celtics were 4th in defense with Isaiah Thomas, playing a lot of minutes. It's possible to make it work with a really short dude. So we'll see. I mean, I kind of feel like there's a chance that this Hawks team needs a coach like Nate McMillan right now. I mean, sometimes you want the young guy who can grow with the team, and sometimes you want the guy who's a little older, who's been around a bit, who can be a little more of a leader and maybe not as fun, but it's better for the team overall. I mean, the most recent example I can think of this, honestly, it would be Tibbs with the Knicks, but the other one would be when the Magic hired Steve Clifford. And it's not like this Hawks team is devoid of talent, so we'll see. But yeah, to get it back to the Celtics, Robert Williams is the next David Robinson.